What does GMO stand for? Take a minute to think about your answer.
According to a new study that was done by Consumer Reports, a majority of packaged goods that are labeled natural are actually contain genetically modified ingredients, which makes it unclear, as to whether they are natural or not, because they grow, but they've been modified in a laboratory or whatever. Apparently, the FDA will allow companies to put the word natural on a product label as long as it says JKLOL on the back of the product. But critics of genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, claim that they pose health risks. It's a complicated issue, though, because there isn't a lot of evidence to back that up. Still, some people are dead set against them. There's been legislation designed to limit GMOs. You see documentaries and angry Facebook posts about it. How many of you do not want GMOs in your body? Yes? Okay, a lot of people. All right. So, as I usually do, when people take a stance on a complicated issue, I wondered how many people who are against GMOs really know what they are. So we sent a crew to one of our local farmers markets to ask people why they avoid GMOs, and more specifically, what the letters GMO stand for. Enjoy.
Do you try to avoid GMOs in your diet?
I do. Yeah.
Tell me why.
There's just a vibration with GMOs. For me personally, just something that I don't particularly want to put into my body.
What does GMO stand for?
Genetically modified. Genetically modified.
Yo.
The.
Oh.
I don't know.
Bishop Don Magic Wand, what is a GMO?
Well, I'm not really sure. You have to make me familiar with that. What is a GMO?
Do you try to avoid GMOs in your diet?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why is that?
Just the effects, I guess, on myself.
What does GMO stand for?
Oh, man, putting me on under the grill. Let's see. I don't even remember.
Do you try to avoid GMOs in your diet?
Absolutely,
Why?
because they're not good for you.
What is a GMO?
It's genetically I don't know, what is it?
If you are eating whole foods, you want to eat what you're eating. You know what I mean? You want to eat what you see, and you're avoiding processed food. But when the whole food is somehow contaminated, that's kind of making it a moot point.
What does GMO stand for?
Genetically manufactured. Oh.
What is a GMO?
General modified ingredient, right?
What is a GMO?
It's something modified.
Do you try to avoid GMOs?
Sometimes. Not a whole lot, but, I try.
What is a GMO?
I don't know. I swear. I was just going along with it. I don't know what GMO is.
What is a GMO?
I don't know. I know it's like some corn bad stuff, right? I know it's bad, but to be completely honest with you, I have no idea.
What is a GMO?
I don't know, so I really don't care. It doesn't affect me. I'm not sick. I'm fine. So.
What is a GMO?
It's a genetically modified organism.
And what's GMO spelled backwards?
OMG. Nice.
GMOs, genetically modified organisms. They're organisms in which the DNA has been altered from its original state through the process of genetic engineering. Some common genetically modified foods include corn, soybeans, potatoes, and squash. However, genetically modified livestock are not yet commercially available. This almond milk is genetically modified. And you would think that these pretzel crisps because maybe they have wheat in them, which they do, would be genetically modified. But as you can see from the label right here, it is a non-GMO project. Is that good or bad? We don't know. GMOs are controversial because while they do have a lot of advantages, some people are still very concerned about the unknown effects of them because they are pretty new products. As well, there's also been a stigma against GMOs in the media and in the recent years, and many individuals really do not understand the science and research behind genetically modified organisms, so they automatically assume that they are negative.
I'm Jordan, and I'm going to be discussing the pro-GMO argument. To start off, GMO foods, if anything, are more ethical than other ways to produce. There is no polluting the environment through gimmicky chemicals, but instead changing the plant from the inside out.
I'm Kara, and I'll be discussing the cons of GMOs. Although genetically modified foods may benefit the environment in some ways, they can potentially be hazardous to people's health and have not been studied thoroughly enough to ensure that they are safe. Many of the data that supports their safety is from experiments with flawed designs and ambiguous results.
Changing the DNA of food could possibly prevent food allergies. With peanut allergies, for example, people are typically allergic to a specific protein. If that protein is changed or removed, you can still be eating a peanut, but allergen-free.
Genetically modified foods also have the potential to introduce allergens to foods that did not previously have them, which could be life-threatening to people who have severe allergies. For example, one study showed that when a gene that originally came from a Brazil nut was introduced to soybeans, people with nut allergies who consumed the soybeans experienced serious allergic reactions. This is also an issue because the FDA does not require GMO foods to be labeled, so people with food allergies may unknowingly consume foods that they are allergic to.
Genetically modified foods can be altered to produce a larger quantity and size of the product. For instance, corn is genetically modified to produce a protein that is toxic to some insects but not to humans, pets, livestock, and beneficial insects. This prevents the use of pesticides, which are harmful to the environment, animals, and humans. This allows the corn that is grown to not be consumed by insects, so the production is greater and is then chemical-free. So this graph right here, it looks at the insecticide use as it's decreasing and the corn uptake. So it's showing that you can produce a lot more and you can still decrease the use of insecticides, which is harmful to the environment and to people and other animals. Also, foods can be modified to contain more vitamins, nutrients, minerals, protein, less fat, etc., so that they're more nutritious. And so an example of this is golden rice, which is genetically modified to contain more nutrients, and because rice is less expensive, it's able to be used in developing countries so that the amount of hunger in the area can decrease. So, for example, here it's the percentage of undernourishment since 1969 to 2010, and you can see a decrease. And then here it's the global amount of genetically modified crops from 1996 to 2016, you see an increase. So there is a correlation between the use of genetically modified organisms in terms of food production and the decrease of malnourishment and undernourishment in the United States and other developed countries, and also in developing countries. And so lots of produce is modified to be larger and have a longer shelf life, which allows them to feed more people. And these changes can feed more malnourished people and combat hunger in the US and third world countries. So genetically modified foods are very prevalent in society. According to the FDA website, in 2018, GMO soybeans made up 94% of all soybeans planted, GMO cotton made up 94% of all cotton planted, and 92% of corn planted was GMO corn. In 2013, GMO canola made up 95% of canola planted, while GMO sugar beets made up 99.9% of all sugar beets harvested. And also, all bananas are genetically modified, which is why banana-flavored candies taste different than actual bananas. So it's nearly impossible to avoid GMOs, and also, too, there's GMOs, it's not that it's unhealthy or that it's dangerous or anything, because a majority of our produce that we consume is genetically modified. And so the U.S. doesn't require labeling of GM food, genetically modified food. And some companies are exempt from regulations, which is why it's so prevalent in the United States. In the EU, all genetically modified foods are regulated, and any food product containing more than 0.9 genetically modified material has to be labeled. So this here shows the difference between what the US and the EU does in terms of labeling. GMO regulations are greatly influenced by the economical, political, and social priorities of the country, and the US has less restrictions than many other developed countries, which makes it much easier to be able to grow and sell genetically modified foods. And so if you look at the distribution of the regulations in different countries, the US, Mexico, and Canada do not have genetically modified food labeling laws. And then this differs from many European countries that require labeling on almost all genetically modified foods. And then in the middle between that, there's some Asian and South American countries that require some genetically modified food labeling, but not all, so it's in the middle. And then many African countries and third world countries have completely banned GMOs, and it's probably because of the fear and lack of knowledge. And so that's how GMOs differ in different areas of the world, and that also influences the amount of hunger in different areas just based on whether they allow genetically modified foods to be sold and consumed.
How did this lesson make you feel? Did your views change since the beginning of the lesson? Will your eating choices change after the lesson? Why or why not? Take a minute to answer these questions and just think about them. Thank you for learning about GMOs with us. I hope you found the lesson interesting and gained an understanding of